Hello and a very warm welcome back to the channel of automotive nonsense. And it's time for one of my every 3-month diary updates about the car that I've been living with, because in between press cars, the ones you see on the channel, I have daily drivers, my company cars from where I work here at Motorpoint. So I'm meant to be filming here today, but I'm doing other bits and pieces in between. So I thought I'd give you a quick sneak at what I've been driving since the beginning of March this year. It's a Volkswagen Arteon Shooting Brake in R-line trim. It's not a diesel. It's been quite interesting, and here is a very quick look at it and what I've thought about it over the past 3 months. Let's go. First up, some quick facts about it. This car would have cost £42,000 if you bought it new, but this one's got 3,000 miles on, or did when I got it, and 31 grand. So yeah, it's lost a lot of value in that time. It's obviously based on the Passat estate, but my God, does it look better? I just can't think of a more interesting looking car that is an estate right now. And I know it's not properly a shooting brake, whinge, but just look at that swooping roofline. I think it's a real looker, and actually probably the best looking car Volkswagen has made in quite a long time. Perhaps the ID Buzz has topped it, but I think that's pretty good. Now, why did I pick this over a Passat? Well, it was available and it's a bit more interesting than Passat. Also, because I love boot space. It's got 565 litres of boot space. This is dangerous because I can't remember what's in here. But yeah, oh, that's not interesting. It didn't open, there you go. Yeah, 565 litres of boot space. Sorry, I've got a baby carrier in there, but as you can see, hopefully, that goes all the way back. There's a little ramp at the back there, so it's not completely flat. And there aren't any clever features like levers for folding the rear seats down or anything like this. And that kind of sums this car up, really. It is quite old school. In some ways, it feels a bit too Passat-y in some areas. The cabin is nice, but not especially glamorous. Sorry, I've got de-icer in the middle of summer because I don't know what is wrong with me. But there we go. We'll talk about the infotainment system as we go for a drive in a minute. But yeah, it's very minimalist. Got some good storage bins under there, probably full of flapjack crumbs because I am addicted to M&S chocolate flapjacks. Some storage in there, it's quite deep. No wireless charging map, it's not even an option on this. And I did review this car properly on the channel a few years ago when it first came out, and I liked it, but it was a little bit humdrum. Now this has got 190 horsepower, 2-litre petrol engine, so it is reasonably quick, about 8 seconds to 60, and I've been getting about 41 mpg. But yeah, just look at it. I think it looks really handsome. I will stop whittering on about the looks. But yeah, it's a cool thing. I'm going to hop in and take you for a drive now. Actually, just before we do go for that drive, one thing I've really enjoyed about this car is how much rear seat space there is. Look, those seats are in my driving position. And my kids, yeah, they've got lots of room. Like my 4-year-old can still kick the back of that seat. But the 2-year-old, she can't. And there is easy space for getting seats in here. One thing I would say is I think the seat backs are more reclined than in a Passat, and it is actually harder to get the bases in there. But that's a niggle, and I do that every week because I swap cars. But if you buy one of these, you're probably only going to do it once. And down here, you've got a 12-volt socket. That's very exciting. And you've got some map pockets here. I remember the one I had little twin pockets here as well. That seems to have gone. Maybe that is a production problem. But anyway, felt line door pockets as well. Super nice, just to stop things rattling around. But anyway, let's go and rattle around on the road. Thank you, future Tim. Your hair looks terrible, but hey, at least you don't look fat in a seatbelt. Anyway, what's my Arteon Shooting Brake been like to actually live with and drive? I've done about 3,500 miles, actually just over 3,000 miles, since I got it at the end of March. And to be honest, it's been really forgettable in a good way, as in nothing's really gone wrong with it. It has done the job it needs to do. It's fitted into my life as easily as a silk purse, and it's just very good. Now, I deliberately didn't get a diesel one because diesel prices when I picked this in March were stratospheric. Honestly, you could buy cheaper caviar and pump it into your loins. It was just not worth getting a diesel one, even though I do about 1,000 miles a month. So yeah, I went petrol, and I did that for several reasons. Obviously, it's cheaper per litre, although now we're in nearly July 2023. Petrol and diesel prices are almost at parity, which hasn't happened for a long time. but I just fancied slightly smoother engine, and this is the 2-litre petrol with 190 horsepower. And it's been really smooth. Actually, it doesn't feel much different to a diesel engine. I've said this in the video I've just done on the Skoda Yeti. Modern petrol engines feel like they're tuned for torque rather than power. So this is quite nice to drive. With the automatic gearbox, you put your foot down and it doesn't kick down gears unnecessarily. It uses the torque to drag you along, and it's got quite a lot of torque. It feels almost dieselish, as I've said. So yeah, I've enjoyed it. Obviously the downside is it doesn't get the same fuel efficiency as a diesel engine. I have been averaging 41 mpg over the 3,000 miles that I've done. I don't think that's too bad, really. I like it when you're on a motorway. It uses cylinder deactivation to get you a bit more mpg, and you just trot along. I've not really noticed it. It's got a 66-litre tank, so it still costs about 100 quid to fill up. But the saving grace is you don't have to put AdBlue in it. That, if you've seen my long-term reports lately, has been just a boring part of driving that I could do without. Every 3,000 miles or a couple of thousand miles, putting AdBlue in a car, it just gets really tedious, and I spill it on my shoes. The only problem I've got today is I've got a bit of banana stuck on the back of my leg from one of my daughters, so I've just dropped off with the mother-in-law. But yeah, it's a quick car. 0 to 60 is about 8 seconds, I think. But the mid-range acceleration is really impressive. Getting onto motorways, not a problem in this 190 horsepower engine. And as I've said, it doesn't feel like a Golf GTI or anything. You're not going to be ragging it to the red line using the paddles. It's just a relaxing car to drive. Now, if I was going to criticize one thing about this car, it's the ride. It's an R-line version, so it's got the big, I think they're 19-inch wheels, and it's got quite low profile tyres. As we all know, if you've been watching the channel for a while, I'm not a big fan of that, because over manhole covers, cracks in the road, which we have many in the UK. I have got more cracks than a cheap OnlyFans channel in the UK. It's a bit crashy. Now, Volkswagen, in their trim lineup for the Arteon Shooting Brake, has actually got 2 top spec models that are kind of equal in price. There's R-Line, and then there's Elegance. Elegance doesn't get all the sporty looking bits, and it doesn't get the big alloy wheels. So actually, if I was going to do this again, have another Arteon Shooting Brake, I would get the Elegance model, because it will ride better. And it's quite telling if you go on Volkswagen's configurator to put bigger wheels on one of these, because yes, you can get 20s and things like that. As soon as you do that, it forces you to take the adaptive suspension, so you can soften the chassis off and things like that. It's almost like they know that it's going to ruin the ride, and they want to do everything they can to mitigate it. But yeah, it is quick. Whee, that's 50 miles an hour from a standstill. And when you're up to motorway speeds, admittedly I'm only doing 50 now. Hello, that's quite cool. Sorry, I'm distracted by the old BMW 3 Series that's got half a cage in it and some cool stripes. That's neat. Anyway, sorry, once you're up to speed, it's a really comfortable and pretty quiet motorway cruiser. The biggest noise, as ever with cars these days, is tyre roar, but it's not too intrusive in the cabin. And the automatic gearbox just shuffles its way into top gear pretty quickly, and you just go about your business. Now, I think that this car doesn't quite feel special enough for the money. I think it still feels too much like a Passat on which it's based. And I know the dashboard and everything is slightly different with the vents, that's all quite cool. And I have got a digital dashboard, but I want a head-up display, and you can get a head-up display in this. You get it as standard in the R model, that's the sporty one, and I'll come on to that. But it's a flip-up plastic thing like you get in a Mini. It's quite a cheap-feeling solution. It's not a proper reflected in the windscreen head-up display. And there are other areas where Volkswagen has cheaped out on this car. You don't get a reversing camera as standard. Now, this is a big car. You get parking sensors as standard on this one. But I'd expect a reversing camera for 45 grand or whatever this would have cost new. It's an option, and that's just poor. I've driven cheaper cars, much cheaper cars, which get reversing cameras as standard. I know Volkswagen has a lot of profit in those, so that's why they're on the options list, but it's just a bit miserly, frankly. Now, it's not a car you are going to want to drive very sportily. You can hustle it around country lanes like any modern car, because it's got loads of grip, and it's very safe, but it's not enjoyable to drive quickly. So I've just not bothered, and when you do start really hammering it, you'll see MPG in the mid to late 20s, which is, it's not great, is it, considering it's not that fast. But otherwise, it's been a really good family cruiser. My criticisms are really quite few and far between. The infotainment system, it's an older Volkswagen Group infotainment system, but it's got some modern sprinkles on top of it. So it's got wireless Apple CarPlay, it's got wireless Android Auto, and that hasn't crashed. The system has never crashed, which is so much more than can be said for the latest Volkswagen Group infotainment systems. I've got two USB-Cs under here, so I can plug my phone in to charge it. A wireless charging mat is not even an option, so that's a bit remiss. And yeah, it's been really good. Now, I have had some electrical foibles with this car, things like the fact that lane keeping assist has just never worked. It throws up a little error every time I turn it on, and that's fine. I don't like lane keeping assist, so I'm not bothered, and it also I don't think can read the traffic signs because it's got a related problem. But you know, you could go and get that fixed if you really wanted to, I'm sure. But other than that, it's just been a great cruiser. You get about 550 miles to a tank, and it is fast enough. I think it just looks fantastic. There are not many other cars out there from mass market manufacturers that make a car this pretty. And I'm not usually vain, but it's felt really nice to be custodian of something that looks a bit swoopy and elegant. I'm not sure I would have it in grey again. I might get a brighter colour. But yeah, it kind of reminds me of one of my guilty secret cars, my guilty pleasure cars, the Mercedes-Benz CLS Shooting Brake. I don't know if you remember that. Came out in about 2012, I think. And I think those are really handsome cars, and I desperately want a CLS63 Shooting Brake at some point in my life as a family wagon. Oh look, there's a CLS! It's a 350 and it's not shooting brake, but I think they're really pretty. And with a 5.5 litre V8, I think there'd be a mega thing to hoon about it. But anyway, I digress. If you're looking at an Arteon Shooting Brake, there is a fast version. It is the R. It's one of Volkswagen's R models, alongside the Golf, the Tiguan, the Touareg. And I've driven that car a few years ago, and it was crushingly disappointing, if I'm honest, which is a bit of a Debbie Downer thing to say, but it didn't feel fast unless you were launch controlling it. And it was very thirsty, and you just got the sense this car is big, it's heavy, it wasn't ever designed to be an R model. And when you give it the same amount of power as pretty much a Golf R, it's not going to feel as fast as a Golf R. So you're setting yourself up for disappointment. And again, it was very firm. So I would give that a miss. It's very expensive as well. I would just get a regular elegance model, frankly, with a 2 litre petrol. Well, the diesel would be fine as well. But anyway, that's been my thoughts on living with the Arteon Shooting Brake. If you are interested in one of these, drop me comments down below, because I do read every comment that I get, and even if the video is a few months old, I'll do my best to reply to you from memory. So drop me any questions. Thank you for watching. Sorry it's been a bit brief. Sorry I sound like Sean Connery on the pitch. And I'll see you next time. Thank you for watching. I'm going to go and do some work.